So it's time to move on to our next session, which is the sponsored session, Empowering Organizations to Build Cloud on Their Terms. And I'd like to welcome for a double act, we have Matthew Hurford from NetApp. He's the Vice President of Systems Engineering, CTO for APAC, and Glen Hastings, the Channel Director, Australia and New Zealand from Equinix. I understand this is a double act that you guys have performed before, so over to you.
And welcome everybody. Yes, Matt and I have spoken about digital trends a number of times before. So Matt's going to drive the slides. I'll do the intro. I'll hand to Matt and we'll get through this pretty quickly. We only have 20 minutes. Hopefully we'll leave a bit of time for conversation and questions at the end. So Glen Hastings, Director of Channels, Equinix, Australia. My role is to sit between service providers and clouds and technology vendors to make sure that we're building great solutions that solve problems for customers. Matthew, over to you, mate.
Thank you, Glenn. My name is Matt Hurford. I'm the CTO for NetApp in Asia Pacific, and I also lead the technical sales team. So all the solution architects, about 190 of them across the APAC region. I spend a lot of my time talking to executives across the region about how they can increase their digital capability and how they can use data better in their organization. And listening to that panel conversation, there was definitely some themes in that. And what I'm seeing is organizations think about IT very differently. IT used to be part of the business, a silo in the business. Now, when you think about digital businesses are built on data and IT becomes far more core to the business. But having a data strategy is absolutely foundational to being successful in a digital world. And what I wanted to talk to you about a little bit today are four key areas. So four key themes that I see executives across the entire region talking to me about, and then giving you a little bit of an insight into what we're doing for organizations and how NetApp comes to the party and helps organizations solve some of these challenges. So I heard some of this, increasing in service agility and flexibility. When we think about digital worlds, the key differentiator here is the fact that you're going to have customer differentiation, customer experience as how you actually differentiate your product in a digital marketplace, and being able to have services run in private clouds, in public clouds, being far more flexible about how we move these things around. Speed has become the new scale. You used to have to be big as an organization to be successful in the world. Now you have to be fast. So what does NetApp do in this particular space? Well, we help organizations build true private clouds. And this is going way beyond just helping organizations with VMware environments. It's taking an application-specific view of how you run your organization. It's looking at those applications and saying, right, let's help the organization be a cloud provider to the business. Let's build a true service catalog. Let's integrate that service catalog into things like ServiceNow or CloudForms. We have all the API integration into those kind of products to build portals for the business to then consume these IT services, have charge back and show back this complete continuous loop, because it's our job to drive the costs and legacy slowness out of all of that private cloud environment. We've got to think about how those applications that we're going to leave on-prem are going to be optimized so we can get the clever people and the money over to the other world, which is public cloud. And most of the organizations I'm talking to are now looking at how they can use multiple clouds to deliver these new services. They may start off with, I'm going to work with Amazon, but you know what, those Google guys and girls have got some pretty amazing products. I might want to start using some of that. So what NetApp has done across this is build a data fabric. And we've been working with the public clouds now for 8 years, joint engineering projects. So all that software we've delivered on-prem for 30 years is now available in all the public clouds. And you can consume it as a virtual storage controller if managing storage controllers is your thing. But increasingly, it's not. I want to consume outcomes. So the same data management services, the same 30 years experience, now available as first-party services inside the public cloud. Why would you do that? Well, because we offer extreme levels of performance, all of the capabilities of 30 years of managing data. Organizations like SAP run SAP HANA Enterprise Cloud in Azure using NetApp's file services in that cloud. Those first-party services. There's a whole range of examples of how even the Australian marketplace, we help organizations move the most critical database workloads up into public clouds. When you've got the same data management platform, same APIs, same security policies, same management frameworks, it makes it quite easy to build this foundational data fabric across multiple clouds. The second thing is all about consumption models matching business models. You know, and I've seen this evolution since I started at NetApp about 13 years ago when I came on board to run a managed service for a major bank, NetApp's first managed service globally. This is now a huge practice for NetApp worldwide. And inside this bucket are two things that we really differentiate with. One is around these flexible consumption models. Everything from, I'd like some clever people to manage my data, please, because I just want to have my storage admins become data experts. Let's get them off the keyboards. And in fact, it's 2021. Nobody should be on a keyboard for a storage platform. They should be data experts in your business, helping you understand where your data is, how you're protecting it, how you can leverage it to drive these customer outcomes. But everything from those folks all the way through to full managed services, we're working right now with a large financial services organization because they came to us and said, you know what, we're going to go to cloud, we just don't know when. And buying staff on CapEx and depreciating over 4 years doesn't make sense to us. So can we have a consumption model pay as you go on-prem? And then can we start to burst into these cloud platforms and have a model that sustains that? Yes, you can. So we need to align to how you're looking to move your businesses. And then on the more technical side, it's around how you're going to consume it. You know, do you want to have appliances, Lego bricks that say what they do on the box? Or do you increasingly want to become software defined? Do you want to be building out your environments on-prem or in the cloud dynamically based on your customer demand for the application services? The world has changed. We're no longer building infrastructure and making applications fit. We are now taking our applications and building dynamically the infrastructure that you need to support it. That way it's constantly optimized. And we don't do any of this. The reason we do all of this in IT is because we want to drive innovation and creativity. This is the most important thing for your business. If you're hiring data scientists, if you're hiring developers, you want to give them the platform that's going to enable them to deliver you innovation at speed. And the two themes that I think really underpin this is this migration from VMs to containers. This is all about, I heard DevOps being spoken about, microservice architectures. This is about speed. It's about decoupling architectures and enabling you to burst workloads into cloud, move workloads between clouds, but that should be seamless to the people you're hiring. You know, we work with an organization called Bandwidth who provide emergency communication services in the US. They took their platform using NetApp from on-prem to the cloud, but then took that from VMs to containers without any barriers of entry. And now they're developing their applications and their new services for their end customers who are the police, who are the ambulance services, far faster than they ever could on-prem. But there was no barrier of entry to do that. We integrate directly into the tool sets those data scientists and developers would like to use. And I've seen so many projects. I mean, I've been around long enough in IT to see data warehouses. I've seen EBI. I've seen it go horribly wrong. The problem with all these architectures that were supposed to drive customer experience is we spent so much time managing the architectures, we didn't actually deliver the results. So now we're actually saying you don't need proprietary file systems, you don't need Hadoop, you don't need this, you just need to have a way of having a secure platform. And if a data scientist wants to come in with a Jupyter notebook and use Kubeflow, integrating all the data services directly into these applications and tool sets that they use. So completely rethinking how we deliver the data platforms that are going to drive this true innovation, particularly in the AI ML workspace. And we're doing all of this. The other mantra is we can't increase the risks and we can't increase the costs. We can't do all this at the expense of security. So we need to use advanced AI. We need to have AI that is looking at the data we're using across this multi-cloud environment. Has a developer accidentally put credit card information or healthcare information into an S3 bucket? Let's proactively alarm on that. Let's know that's happening. We write custom AI algorithms for organizations so they can detect anomalies in how data is being used across this entire multi-cloud landscape. And in continual service optimization, the days of installing agents, the days of herding spreadsheets are gone. You need to have advanced AI optimization built into your services. So if you're running VDI, VDI, a big thing in COVID, if you're running virtual desktops, maybe you're running Windows virtual desktops inside the cloud, you need to automatically know that they're not optimized. You need to have a product set there that's delivering you the right VDIs at the right price point, and that's all being managed for you. So you're always paying the lowest price for the services you're consuming. And so we're building out these spot services, whether it be compute, containers, VDIs, Spark analytics engines. You consume them as outcomes, knowing you're getting best of breed all the time and always paying the lowest price point. So that's my part of the conversation. I hope there was something in there for you. We work very closely with our friend Equinix to deliver these services. I'm going to hand back to Glen to talk through his elements.
Thank you very much, Matt. We don't have a heap of time, so I'm going to go past this slide, but I guess just the point of this slide is Equinix sits in a very unique position as the foundational layer upon which a lot of the technology sits that companies are building. So we do see the major trends in terms of how corporations are taking advantage of public cloud, how NetApp is solving the challenge of data adjacent to public cloud. So I don't need to go through the trends. I'm sure you'll hear about them all day, but I do want to talk quickly about the role that Equinix is playing and how we're evolving to support the major secular trends. So next slide, please, Matt. So I think most people know who we are. We are a very, very large data center organization. We're in 65 metros and we're expanding rapidly. The figure on the left about interconnections is a very important stat, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But the point here is to show that our intention is to be in all the right places, have all the right partners and all the right possibilities that corporations can use to future-proof and de-risk their investments in technology and their strategy. Next slide, please, Matt. Thank you very much. Now, this slide, I've intentionally put this slide in. This is a slide that we've been talking to for years. It's a slide that depicts a thing called Cloud Exchange, which is now called Cloud Fabric. And I show this because it just graphically represents, I guess, the way that we're seeing enterprise solve for today's challenges. So on the left, of course, we have the traditional enterprise on-prem data center, the good world in which I grew up, very, very simple and far less complex than things are today. But the trend that we're seeing is enterprise companies moving an edge into a facility like Equinix or another provider around the world. And that edge can be as small as a rack with some data and a network aggregation point, or it can be private cages or suites. The red cloud in the middle is essentially our Fabric, which is a software-defined interconnection platform that was called Cloud Exchange because enterprise companies used to use it to connect exclusively to the clouds, which you see running down the side of the screen. But we now call Cloud Exchange Fabric because Fabric is evolving in terms of what it can do and the problems that it can solve for customers. If we go to the next slide, please, Matt, I'll just go into that a little bit. So why do we call Fabric Fabric? If I think about the general direction in which the Equinix business is heading, as I say, we want to be in all the right places. So we've currently got about 230 data centers and we've got multiple megawatts of expansion plans on the go at the moment. Our Fabric is available in 51 of those metros, expanding to 55. And the Fabric, which used to be used to connect to clouds, can now be used to connect to carriers, customers, service provider partners, clouds, of course, whether they be infrastructure clouds or software as a service clouds, basically any participants that exist on that platform anywhere around the world. So you connect physically in a metro where you exist, and then you can fire up virtual circuits on demand to basically any other industry participant. It's an enormous and very, very fast growing part of our business. Our interconnection business represents roughly 19 to 20% of our global revenues, and we're a $6.5 billion firm growing still at roughly 10% year on year. So the maths would tell you that it's a big and expanding business. So if I think about the direction in which we're headed, that single Fabric, actually you can go to the next slide, Matt. This is the one that sort of captures this. I'll get to that point in a moment. The bottom layer, traditional services, data centers and the like. Xscale is our joint venture business with the hyperscalers around the world. The middle layer, our interconnection business. But as we go further up the stack, we are adding some interesting things to our product portfolio. So Network Edge is virtual network and routing function. So you can fire up an edge in a market where you don't physically exist. An example in Australia, if you're in Perth and you wish to connect to Oracle's Fast Connect Edge in Sydney, you could fire up a virtual network function on platform Equinix in Sydney and connect to a Fast Connect Edge. So that is Network Edge. But the more interesting one to me is now Metal. 18 months ago, we acquired a business in the US called Packet, which was very much a developer's bare metal cloud. And not all workloads sit natively on the hyperscale public cloud services. So if you need a server and you're not interested in refreshing infrastructure on-prem, and you want to run it for a minute, a month, or a year, again, using that same concept of that same single global fabric that can use clouds, customers, NetApp, and anybody else, you can also fire up virtual network functions, virtual security functions, and bare metal as a service as well. And in line with Matt's earlier point around agility and cloudifying the procurement experience, increasingly I'm seeing Equinix head in that direction where companies can, essentially sign up to a, hopefully in the future, a simplified set of terms and conditions. And then once you're on the platform and you've got a physical connection to the fabric, you can really take advantage of all of the things that we know that exist today and the things that we don't know that exist that are coming down the pipe. Because I can guarantee when they land, they will land and be connected to our fabric. Matt, second last slide, I think. Just a very, very quick example. And the deck is going to be shared afterwards. So there's a link there to a video that talks to this. But this is a great example of one which we've worked on together with Optus, some cloud providers, and NetApp, Children's Cancer Institute of Australia. They run enormous genomic data sets that they have to share with their peer organizations around the world. They were largely running on-prem previously. 18 months ago, we moved them into Equinix. They have a huge array from NetApp and are using the data fabric story to move data around the world. They're using Optus as their network service provider. They use Fabric as the interconnection platform, and they leverage Amazon, Azure, and Google. A great use case for a company that was constrained previously, and by doing, I think, the right thing, setting the right foundational layer, they are now set up for today, tomorrow, and whatever may come down the pipe. Matt, I know you're involved in that, mate. Did you want to have anything to say about the CCIA?
Yeah, also, a great customer to work with. And they did, right? They had to modernize their on-prem private cloud, and they rationalized that and drove costs out. And yeah, they do. They use a lot of the public cloud and the public cloud data services to share, data between various agencies in the US and Europe to hopefully solve childhood cancer, which is a mighty mission. So yeah, they're a great organization to work with.
Certainly is. So to summarize from Equinix's perspective, as I say, all the right places, all the right partners, and all the right possibilities. Data centers in every location, and one single software-defined global fabric that allows anyone in any of our IBXs to connect to any other thing. So if I'm looking at de-risking, future-proofing my investments and setting myself up with the agility and security that I need to run my infrastructure today and tomorrow, then I think the Equinix value prop is increasingly becoming relevant. And our partnerships with NetApp, I heard HealthScope earlier. That's another one with NetApp and Advent One, our partner in Victoria, that is moving towards us and taking advantage of this same solution. So the last slide, I think, Matt, and we're over to you. And then we've got a couple of minutes for questions, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. So, to sum up the conversation here, I think, where NetApp and Equinix partner well is the fact that, you need to build out the right network. We're in an edge to core to cloud world. COVID's driven how network traffic is moving through your organization, how you're going to communicate, and how your network traffic is going to relate through these transactions with your customer base. Having this common data management platform that can link, the edge architectures to the core architecture, to the cloud architectures, and this common data management platform, common APIs, common security is extremely powerful and a really solid foundational building block for how you're going to use cloud and drive digital projects. And then, one of the other things we do with Equinix is, as you saw, put the data next to cloud. Sometimes it's a data bunker. Sometimes you're not sure which cloud you're going to use. Sometimes you're going to want to rethink DR and BCP and, have your data in one place and leverage multiple different services and have the services in those multiple clouds access that data inside Equinix. So we thank you for your time today. We're here to help. There are some links here. If you want to know anything about what NetApp is doing across this multi-cloud environment, then cloud.netapp.com is the place to go. And I know, Glen, from an Equinix perspective, you've also put some links in there to really explain, how Equinix can help in a multi-cloud world and a hybrid world.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Lachlan. Any questions from anybody?
Yeah, thanks, Glen and Matthew. I guess I have a question, and that's, there's obviously significant infrastructure implications of what you're talking about with this, and you need to, organizations will have to renovate and think very hard about the infrastructure. I was in a session, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and it was somebody from Equinix, actually. I think he was talking about legacy companies that are trying to build a Tesla on the chassis of a sort of a mid-1960s Morris Minor. in their bid to get to this new infrastructure. What would your advice be to companies that are not well advanced in this, struggling with legacy, and also want to get to this new sort of point with infrastructure to optimize the new tools that are out there?
What would my advice be? Equinix has a strategy. We quite often do it actually in tandem with NetApp. It's called a digital edge strategy briefing. We can talk about what we see. We have a team of engineers or solution architects around the world who are very, very, very well versed in cloud and infrastructure. So we can talk about the directions we see, and then we've got a plethora of partners that we can introduce to talk about, as I say, how to solve today's problems but set themselves up for tomorrow. So engage us for a conversation, and let's talk about the art of what's possible, I guess.
And the other question I had was about Edge. To what extent do you think that Edge has sort of got a real move on during COVID? I mean, we're working remotely. The sort of the less distributed world seems to be happening big time. Has that been a real impetus for Edge over the last 18 months?
Yeah, certainly. We've watched basically the supporting infrastructure for internet applications evolve in Australia enormously over the last 18 months. Zoom sits on our global platform. So we saw all of the internet-facing businesses, basically their pipes go from this to this very, very quickly, and the volume of traffic traversing them obviously increased massively. Every company's had to pivot. I'm sitting in the back room of my home at the moment, connected to an Ethernet cable back to my house to do this and make sure that things work. I think we're quite lucky that the last 18 months happened now, because we probably, had it have happened 5 years ago, might have struggled to produce the same good outcomes that we have these days. So yeah, it's certainly been a time of rapid change and consumption of as a service models to allow people to continue to operate.
Excellent. Glen and Matt, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lachlan.
Thank you very much.